Hey, we are going to talk today about the hip hinge. We are going to compare the hip hinge to actually squatting, so you can definitely see the difference between the two skills because they are two very distinctly different things. So I'm going to get my face out of the way and we are going to start. So the hip hinge, as you see here, this is the skill that you are going to be executing by the end of this lesson today. The point of the hip hinge is it really allows you to load your spine a lot more without actually putting a lot of strain on it. So as it says here on the left, it says it maximizes how much strength you can actually get from your spine. The second part is that it prevents your spine from being placed under stress. So as you notice, as my hips are moving back, you can actually load more weight onto your legs and spine. As we move on, this is comparing the squat to the hip hinge. So if you look on the left, it says the hip hinge focuses on bending at the hips while keeping the spine neutral. So again, going back to this picture, my spine is straight throughout the entire movement. There's no rounding of my spine. So that is considered a neutral spine. The second point is that this is used during deadlifts, kettlebell swings, and other Olympic lifts like the power clean or hang clean, and also the snatch, which are things that we're going to be working on throughout the quarter. The third point of this is that it's critical to glute development and also your posterior chain, which includes the muscles around your spine, your glutes, and your hamstrings, which is typically underdeveloped in athletes. Now, when we're comparing that to the squat focuses primarily on bending at the hip, but also bending at the knee while keeping that neutral spine that we just discussed. It's used during lunges, squats, squat jumps, and a variety of athletic movements that, again, we will be going over as the quarter develops. Also, this develops a little bit more of your quadricep and your hamstrings, which we just talked about, but also your calves and glutes as well. So here you see the difference between a squat and a hip hinge. The squat, which is on the left, the knees are ahead of the red line, which again, that red line is going right through my center of gravity. The knees are ahead of the red line. The hips are far behind my heels. The shoulders are right even with the red line. And then again, you are looking at the angle of my hips and my knees, and those angles are identical, which we call congruent. If you look at the hip hinge, my knees are behind the red line. So again, my shins are completely parallel. So if you look at that compared to that red line, shin and red line are parallel to each other. And again, my hips are distinctly behind my heels. In both of these images, my back is completely straight. And that is the goal of both of these. So you are going to learn how to test your own hip hinge. So what you're going to need is a long straight stick or pole. So whatever it is, it must go from at least your tailbone to the top of your head. I used a hockey stick. You can use a yardstick. You can use a broomstick. Anything that you have in your home that will actually reach from your tailbone to the top of your head. You also need a wall, which again, when we're going back to this image, okay, you need a wall that there's nothing in the way between you and your hips. And then obviously we're going to be working on that good posture. So step one, find that stick. And I'm not sure what you got around your home, but that's what I need you to find. Step two, you're going to place it along your back. So if you notice on step two, I have it touching 3 different points. I have it touching the back of my head. I have it touching my upper back. And I also have it touching on my tailbone. Okay, so those are the 3 points. I'm holding it in that spot behind my head, and I'm also holding it against my lower back. So those 3 points need to stay in contact throughout this entire movement. The third step is you're going to stand one of your foot length away from the wall. So I just measured it out, and it's a rough estimate. It does not need to be perfect. There's no real science to it. But I'll tell you, if you get too close, it makes it too easy to do incorrectly. But if you're too far away, you're just not going to be able to reach the wall. So using your foot as a measurement is a great tool. The final step is actually doing the hip hinge. So as you notice, I am holding the hockey stick behind my head and also touching my tailbone, but also staying in contact with my lower back. So keeping your back straight, reach your hips back and lower your chest until your glutes or your butt hits the wall. And again, if you back up, that's cheating and is way too easy to do. So make sure you don't back up if you can't get it. Just really work on training your body to move the right way. You know if you're doing it right if the stick touches your head, upper back, and butt through the entire movement. I should be able to go to at least parallel to the ground with my chest with that stick touching all 3 points. The next thing we want you to focus on is your feet. You want to have 3 points of contact with your feet throughout the entire movement. So again, if this is your foot, we want the ball of your big toe, ball of your pinky toe, and your heel pressing into that ground the entire movement. And then finally, what you're going to do is you're going to do the assignment that's comparing your squat to your hip hinge. So what you're going to end up doing is taking 2 pictures, one of you squatting with perfect form, okay, and the other one of you completing the hip hinge with that stick or pole with perfect form. So then you're going to upload that worksheet into Notability from Schoology, and then you're going to drop those pictures in there, and I'm going to ask you to sketch on those with the same thing showing that I showed in my 2 before. And then finally, you're going to assess your form by answering some questions that I provide for you. Okay. So ultimately, what you are going to be doing is creating this. All right. So you show on the left is your squat. Perfect form is right here. That red line is going to touch your head, but behind your ear, go through your shoulder, all the way into your shoelaces. If I draw a line from my hip down to the ground, it's touching significantly behind my heels. My blue angle for my back and my femur is going to be congruent to the green angle from my femur to my shin. Poor posture is going to be a rounded back. My hips are directly over my heels. Okay, so this angle is not what we need it to be. And also this angle here from my femur to my shin is too large. So this is going to score basically 0 points out of the 5 that I need you to get, where this is going to score a 5 out of 5. So again, you need to draw a red line from your laces up to your shoulders to the back of your head. You need to draw a blue angle from your hips to your back and your femur, and then your knees, which is going to be making sure your knees are pressed ahead of your toes, and that same is the same angle as the blue. When we look at the hip hinge over here, again, you're going to create a vertical red line, which starts at your shoelaces. You're going to create a blue angle, which follows that spine to the thigh bone, and then a green angle, which follows that thigh bone down your shin. And again, if I draw that line from my hip, it is falling significantly behind my heels. So again, what we're looking for is that your red line is going to go from your laces through your rib cage. The blue line is your back is completely straight. It's a smaller angle and your hips are distinctly behind your heels. And that green angle is a lot bigger. So again, but what we're looking specifically at is this shin bone line. This shin bone is running parallel to our red line. So here is a perfect one. Looking over here is imperfect. I got a rounded back. My hips are falling right above my heels. And then my knees are actually pressing ahead of the red line, which shows that my shins are not running parallel. So again, just quick review, make sure you upload that PDF into Schoology, take a perfect squat picture and a perfect hip hinge photo picture on your iPad, put those into the worksheet, draw your angles, and again, there's directions right on the worksheet for you. I actually have a cheat video for you if you're not sure how to navigate Notability in this way. Complete those self-assessment questions, which are simply yes or no, and then you're going to turn that PDF into Schoology. All right. That should be clear enough for you guys. If you do have any questions as you're going through it, shoot me a message and we'll get it figured out.